Chukwu, and this is my presentation for the SC457 research. And my topic is data exchange platforms in service oriented architecture. So it's an overview of SOP, REST, and GraphQL and how they relate to SOA. So first of all, I have to first clarify what is the goal of SOA. So we want to have autonomous independent systems that can communicate over a network to fulfill a certain business goal or business goals. And there are some principles of SOA, and these are the principles that I feel should be in mind when you're choosing how your services are going to communicate. And it's service statelessness, service autonomy, shared services, and service interoperability and standardization. So, the first thing I'll talk about is SOAP, and it stands for Simple Object Access Protocol, and it's a platform independent, transmission independent, and operating system independent XML based communication protocol that uses HTTP and XML as its primary technology. And there are two distinct ways of making requests in SOAP, and you have the traditional RPC, the when the client makes a request to the server, and the server it waits for the server to give a reply. So that's the traditional format. Then the second one is, and this is the one that's usually used, is the document version where the message is inside a document, and that document contains some information that we'll talk about later. So the format of SOAP. So we have like a binding of like the bindings, which are rows that connect the service to the message. And the structure of a message or the message in SOAP is basically a document, and that document, it has a envelope, it has a header, and it has a body where the message is kept, and we'll talk about that later. So another thing you have to notice that, okay, like when we're sending a message in SOAP, like the message is wrapped, so we're combining like the RPC and the documents, and in that document we have an XSD that defines the elements and defines a whole lot of other things that make it interoperable, like both the server and the client or different services in this situation, they can understand because of it is defined in that document. So that will help. That means that each service can be implemented in their own certain ways because all the rules are defined in the documents, and everybody just knows that we have to follow this format. So let me just break that down. So the message, or the document rather, it has an envelope, and this envelope, it holds the message body, the header, the serialization rules we just talk about, the encoding type, the version, and in the header we have like some attributes, and one of those attributes is the must understand attribute, and this specifies because if the header is important, because the header is actually not important, but you can add it in case there are some specifications or there are some things you want each of the services to know. And we also have the actor attributes, which also defines that or gives an identity to maybe one service or another service. And we have the body that contains a message, and we have the faults that define like the errors and the possible faults and the codes, and the codes of those errors that can occur in a message. So you can see like this all helps with standardization because it's setting the rules, is defining all the nodes because the actors are actually called nodes. So it's defining everybody that, okay, that has a stake in this communication. What are you allowed to see? What do you need to know? And things like that. So let's talk about SOP, the genesis of standardization. So pre SOA, we just had the generic client server program, and the code was bulky because of what happened was that there was a lot of duplicate code, and every single service needed to know the deep implementation of each other. So there was barely any abstraction. So when SOA came out, let me talk about XML actually. So the first step to solving this problem was XML. It was developed by W3C, and XML was the first step in the right direction of creating standardized messages that would be sent between systems. He achieved this by using the XML schema definition, and this is used for data validation. And he also has an XL, SXL, XSL,